Guillaume Le Tual here. I'm the host where I feature top leaders in business and e-commerce. I have Jeremy Weiss here, who's done thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs and leaders. And we have flipped the script today. He will be interviewing me.
Guillaume, I'm excited. Thanks for having me. And before we get to the episode, we're going to talk about how do you save 3 hours a day? I mean, who doesn't want to save 3 hours a day, right? And so how can you do that through your website? We're going to talk about that. And before we do, this episode is brought to you by MageMontreal. So if a business wants a powerful e-commerce online store that will increase their sales or to move piled up dormant inventory to free up cash reserves, Guillaume, who doesn't want that? Or to automate business processes to gain efficiency and reduce human processing errors, your company, MageMontreal, can do that. And I know you've been helping e-commerce stores for over a decade, okay? But here's the catch. You're specialized and work with Adobe Magento e-commerce platform. And you're among that's it. You're among only a handful of certified Adobe Magento companies in Canada. But even if a company doesn't have a Magento site, you've converted lots of sites over to Magento, because you found it to be one of the most flexible platforms for e-commerce. So I know you do everything Magento related. So if someone needs design, development, maintenance, training, support, debugging, performance analysis, everything Magento, you have their back. They can email your team at support@magemontreal.com, or they can go to magemontreal.com to check out more. That's MAGE Montreal.com. Before we, really, who doesn't want to save time? Talk to me. We're going to talk about saving 3 hours a day. There was a company called Crystal Clear Bags. What do they do?
Well, they sell crystal clear bags online. So food stuff that you could ship, muffins, whatever, in bags, or other kind of crafts that you put in those crystal clear bags, so perfect see-through. So that's what they do. And when you think about e-commerce, very often you don't necessarily think about all the complexity that comes with it from a business point of view. And very often people come and see us, they say like, okay, I need a prettier website, the other one's a bit dated, and we've outgrown perhaps a previous platform for this, that reason. And it's more of a website conversation. And what I will typically do is bring this over to a business conversation and a business process conversation here. So in their case, they had a perfectly functional process. They were a very successful company, but it required a lot of manual labor, lots of man hours to fulfill all their thousands of orders that they receive, and to ship all that stuff, print shipping labels, synchronize manually stuff back to the ERP, enterprise resource planning system, that manages the whole company and stock and so on. So by putting in place automation there on every level for synchronization, for stock updates, for printing shipping labels, stuff like that, the result was that they saved 3 hours a day per employee. And they have actually 5 employees, the CSR, the customer service representative. So that's 15 hours a day that is saved in manual labor, because we had a discussion
about
automation. Yeah.
Because it's so complex. Like, so an order comes in, right? Someone buys a box of bags, and then they have to take all the steps to get it shipped out the door to that customer. There's a lot of things in place. So you help speed up all those little things, which adds up to a lot of things. And I want you to walk through some of that a little bit with the automation in a second. But before we do that, what were the issues they came to you with?
Well, they came with a very detailed proposal. They had consultants supporting them from BDC. So they had that, 50 pages requirement document, thoroughly prepared. It was very organized, very good. What they were looking for was mostly a better user experience on the mobile, because they have very high stats on mobile for visitors, but not much purchases, which is
the conversion was bad on mobile.
Exactly, and the experience overall was bad. The site was dated and needed a new mobile experience, and that's frequent. You need to invest significantly. Not their case, but now with the new trend is the PWA, the Progressive Web App. That's a new up and coming thing, but that's not this specific project. You need to invest in the mobile experience to see a raise in conversion on mobile. Otherwise, the mobile is always significantly lagging behind, desktop. So very often you'll have more traffic on mobile, but fewer sales, and you have most of your sales on desktop. So
you have to convert the site that they have now. They had a bad mobile experience.
Yeah.
So you had to do a lot of different customizations to convert it to a better mobile experience?
To reinvent the mobile experience, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So reinvent mobile experience. That was
Do you
the big one.
find that most people look at those stats? Like, that's a smart stat to look at as far as the conversions on mobile. Are they more was this company more advanced in doing that, or do most companies look at that metric?
They're pretty good. We're fairly tech savvy, but it's not a metric that people look enough at. Very often they'll just do the basic things. They'll open Google Analytics and check. Okay, I have whatever. 60 or 70% of my traffic on mobile. Sometimes even more, can be 80%, whatever. And then my 30% on desktop, and that's where things stop. So of course they need to put in place proper conversion tracking, so uh, where the sales happened, where it came from, and so on. Did you spend Google ads for that sale, yes or no, and so on.
So they came with not a great mobile conversion. You helped fix that. What else?
Well, it was the speed of the site, but that was just a result of having a brand new site. There was improvements there. Other aspects were about organization, because they only have 150 base products, not that much, but they have so many variants that you stack all this up to 5,000 SKU, and then was a bit of an organization problem to stay organized with all that stuff. So
Yeah.
we've helped them there. They did most of the grunt job there, but we were there to assist and give, consulting and how should this be structured and best presented to users and so on.
Yeah, I'm curious how you help them in the organization, but I could see how, okay, you have these protective closure bags. You get a 50 count, a 100 count, a 200 count, a 1,000 count, a 5,000 count. So they have all these SKUs within just that one product line. How did you help them with the organization piece?
Well, first of all, they did not even have a product detail page in the past. You would be ordering from some kind of a big Excel online with an add to cart button next to each line. This feature is still available because their customer base was used to that, so we made a prettier version. But now we've added the classic product detail page that gives you all the details about that product, which was not available before. So you have more information about what you're buying when you're comparing stuff and so on. Also, we've grouped things together. So, for example, the classic example would be more simple to explain than the bag situation here. If you have a t-shirt, small, medium, large, you don't want to hit the back button to go shop for the medium and find where it is in the list. You just want to have an option, a drop down that you choose small, medium, and large from that page. And that's the norm. Almost everybody's like that. But once in a while, we have a merchant that's not quite set up right. And each size is actually an individual product, not grouped together to a master product to make this a single shopping experience.
So the organization, they really need cleaning up. Are there certain plugins you like? When I'm looking at Clear Bags, there's a lot of cool features. Like if I, click on food safe boxes, right? It's got a bunch of different icons there, and it also allows me, it gives shopping options. What plugins do you like?
There are many plugins. But to talk about what you just mentioned, those icons there, this is a synchronization that's automatic with their ERP, that they tag what is the attributes, so to speak, of this type of bag. It's food safe, for example, and then the food safe logo will show up automatically on the website. So that's the information there. And in terms of extension, what we like, one that we really like is the abandoned cart automated email reminder. So if you're a logged in customer, or likely a past customer, or you created yourself an account, you add something to the cart and you don't complete the transaction, you're going to receive an automatic reminder. As an administrator, you choose when that reminder is going to happen, a day, 2 days from now. And hey, you got something in your cart. Do you want to sort of resume your purchase? You could decide if you want to give a discount or not in an automatic way. As much as possible, try to not give the discount. Margins sometimes are already thin for merchants. So that's one feature that I really like, because you can get some real sales from that.
I've seen, like I've heard this, and I don't know the exact metrics, that the abandoned cart is a huge percentage. Like the people actually adding stuff and not completing the purchase. I mean, do you have any idea what's kind of a range of abandoned cart percentages?
That varies widely, actually, for every single industry, what is good or not good. And if you add additional steps, for example, we have another project where there's a personalization tool. So it's very cool. You could have on your mug here, you could put your logo and personalize this in 3D, have a 3D preview and so on. That tool is really cool. But it also drops, your completion process there for the checkout because of the complexity that it adds. So you could have, just like with that tool 20 or 30% who actually finish the checkout process, unless they're extremely motivated. For example, they're trying to personalize a bridal album.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like a wedding or a bachelor or bridal. Like
then they're motivated. Yeah, exactly. Then it goes to 50%, So
it's still a lot. It could be like 70 to 90% abandon rate, right?
You could, depending on the category. And then, of course, you want to try to drill down in that stuff, try to identify, like, why is that happening? You may want to use some video recording tools like Hotjar, gives you anonymous recording, and you can review. Of course, it takes time, though. You need to have someone to have the time to sit through those videos and check, like, what's going on. Like, and then you can see people trying to sort of clumsily click around, and they're sort of confused, and then you sort of understand that your page needs some revamping.
Yeah. And, that's just a lot of low-hanging fruit, right? Abandoned cart and actually making sure the user experience is right. And that comes with what you're saying. The organization has to be there. It has to be a good mobile experience. It has to be fast. All people are impatient. They'll like bounce off a page if it's like 5 milliseconds too slow or something.
Right. The speed's super important. And also what you're trying to do is really build that ecosystem of giving that great buyer's experience. So sometimes I've been asked questions like, oh, if I add that specific feature, let's talk about, again, that abandoned cart automatic reminder email, how much lift will I get? How much return on investment will I get for that specific feature? Well, that's quite of a wild question. Will vary for every single site and industry and whatnot. But it's too narrow. It's too simplistic of a mindset for thinking that one, and you're forgetting the big picture of the ecosystem of the experience you're trying to create here. So I was giving to that specific client the analogy. It's not a perfect analogy, but good enough to help understand. Imagine you have a bad neighborhood from an almost abandoned section of a city, and you say, if I add a park there, how much lift will I get in the neighborhood? Well, I don't know, man. Maybe you get a little bit, but you still have a bad neighborhood. You got the street gangs, you got the ugly buildings, and you have to keep investing until you create that wonderful ecosystem that changes perception. And people say, yes, this is a desirable place to live in. And it's not just one thing at a time, but creating that big picture of an ecosystem.
Yeah. I mean, one thing, so the organization, the bad mobile, experience, also the automation. So I want to talk about the automation piece. I always save the best for last, because you act as not just, you can do everything, but you provide the strategy behind it of why you need to do it. So talk about some of the automation you had to put in place to, again, saving 3 hours per employee a day is significant.
Right. So typical things that we'll see, the low-hanging fruit or the most common request is the integration between the e-commerce website and the ERP, the enterprise resource planning system, to manage all the inventory and accounting and so on. I had another case with, not clear bags, but they had 5,000 invoices per year generated by the website, and they were manually recopying all that in the other system because they had like 4 accountants and bookkeepers in house. The big company, like, they didn't care. But it's like, no, man, we got to help you here. That doesn't make any sense. This can be automated, and you can calculate, okay, how much does that person cost you per hour that's doing this job? How many hours per week or per month they spend on this? And it's a very easy ROI calculation here. Plus, it's more enjoyable. You can reallocate that person's time to something more productive than data entry, and very often it's fairly qualified staff.
Talk about that for a second. What should people be looking at in their own business? Because sometimes, again, we just get complacent and used to doing things a certain way, and we don't even realize it could be done in a better way, in a more automated way. What have you seen with people just doing things manually that you saw from an outside perspective? Like, are you crazy? You guys are doing this manually? Like, so that was one example. So they were taking invoices that were generated and manually inputting them. That could be automated. What else have you seen that people have been doing?
Another really big one is shipping labels. So shipping labels, you say, okay, that's just a necessary evil. We got, let's say, 135,000 orders that we need to process. And you add 3 minutes per order. I let you do the math, how many thousands of hours that gives you. And if you pay somebody actually, $20 per hour, that will roll back to, again, $135,000 on salary at $20 an hour at 3 minutes per order for 135,000 orders to process, So it depends on the volume, obviously, but shipping label should be automated. You get the order as soon as it's approved by some admin that this is not a fraud case, it's a legit order, we're going to fulfill it, capture the money, then everything else should, create itself automatically. The shipping label should even print itself automatically if you get to that point in the physical world. And then you have, ideally, the next step after that, some kind of scanner for the pick list. If you're in that kind of medium-sized company, only the very large one tend to have like the robot and automation of warehouse. Most people live in a world that it's manual, but at least if you add the scanner instead of manually clicking or typing the SKU that was just sold, it's much better. So for sure, you want to automate and digitalize the whole chain of fulfilling.
Yeah. What are some things, Guillaume, that you've been able to connect to Magento? You mentioned ERPs, or certain ERPs or certain other connections that you've been able to, shippers or labels. What are some of those companies that you've seen people work with? Not that you're endorsing them, but just you've seen others work with them.
Yeah, exactly. So for sure, ERPs, there's a lot of them that people will request. We see SAP Business One often. We'll see Microsoft Dynamics, NetSuite, and a few others. And they're very niche, narrow ERP that you've never heard of. It's amazing how many ERPs exist for niche application.
Yeah. What's an example of like a niche one that people wouldn't have heard of, but a certain industry, everyone's heard of it?
Well, maybe Genius ERP, specific to small custom-made manufacturing that many parts to one part. So you have a lot of assembly to deliver one custom good for medium-sized manufacturing. You've probably never heard of that unless in that field. So that's one example. And then, of course, all the email marketing automation. You have stuff like MailChimp already provides a free connector with Magento. It's quick to set up, or all kind of other platforms like that for email marketing automation.
What are some other email ones? I noticed like an email pop up on the Clear Bags site. What other emails?
Well, there's Marketo. Marketo is a big one, but it's for more the bigger or mid-size market, more than a small SMB market, even though SMB can buy it as well. It was purchased by Adobe. So, Adobe Magento, Adobe Marketo. So, they try to make that stuff work together well. So Marketo is a good choice. And you'd have some others, Klaviyo and a few other competitors, even HubSpot. Depends what your use. If it's more of a CRM that sends an email, or if it's more of an email automation platform that you're looking for, like ActiveCampaign or something like that.
So you mentioned ERP, email. What other tools or softwares that you've had to connect?
Yeah, accounting packages, quite a lot of those, from QuickBooks, Online, Desktop, Sage ERP, ACPAC, Akumba, a lot of accounting packages. Because if the business is not big enough or does not have a complex enough need to have an ERP, they'll typically run the business from an accounting package. Got
it. So organization, bad mobile, and just saving time with automation. What was the outcome for Clear Bags? What on the flip side? What were they saying after the project? Well,
I know they're very happy. That's for sure. I know they're very happy with the new site, good new experience, mobile experience, automation, saving time. Also, they did not have individual product page before, so now their site has 5,000 more web page than it used to have, which can only be good for their search engine, their SEO, and search optimization. So it's definitely a good success. We're happy to continue collaboration and keep going further in the automation of the business.
Yeah. First of all, Guillaume, thank you for having me. And this has been super valuable because everyone should be thinking of, how do I automate things? Should I be looking at a mobile experience that is bad because maybe we're not paying attention to it? And organization. Those three things, and then a lot of the tools you mentioned. So I think everyone could check out more about what you're working on, the more podcast episodes, MageMontreal.com. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you for being here.